Hey there, everybody. I thought I would do a little bit of a spin on History Maker Baseball and try something, an experiment, just to see how it works. The game was created so that if you wanted to create your own players, since they use traits and not hardcore statistics, that you can use baseball cards to create the players, just the statistics off the back of a baseball card being sufficient. Well, when I played a couple of games, I thought to myself, well, if it was a PC game, some of the computer games have the player photos in the game, and that certainly adds a little realism. So I thought, why not bring out actual baseball cards and incorporate those into the game, merely for aesthetics, not for any information, because the information is already on the History Maker baseball cards that came with the 77 set. But I just thought I'd try it, see how it flowed, and see if it added anything to the game, at least in my opinion, or maybe you guys' opinion if you choose to comment. Anyway, I decided to set up an exhibition game, Dodger Stadium, between the 77 Cincinnati Reds and the 77 Los Angeles Dodgers. I have it all set up here on my table. And the starting pitcher is Don Sutton. I'm using mostly the 1978 Topps baseball cards because they reflect the 77 season. However, I could not readily locate my 1978 Topps Don Sutton card, so I substituted it with my 77 Topps baseball card. And I've done that with a couple of the players that I wasn't able to locate, although most of the players have the 78 Topps set to go with it. So let me do a little quick introduction with the players and the baseball cards, and just to see if this adds anything or whether it's cumbersome or a waste of time or whatever, but thought I'd try it. Doesn't cost anything to experiment. So without further ado, let's meet the starting lineup for the 1977 Cincinnati Reds, managed by Sparky Anderson. Leading off, playing third base, he's banned from baseball but not from History Maker Baseball, Pete Rose. Batting second, playing right field, Ken Griffey. Batting third, at second base, Joe Morgan. Batting cleanup, the left fielder, George Foster. Batting fifth and catching, Johnny Bench. Batting sixth and playing first base, Dan Dreesen. Batting seventh, the shortstop, Dave Concepcion. Batting eighth and playing center field, Cesar Geronimo. And batting ninth and pitching, warming up in the bullpen, right-hander Jack Billingham. Your 1977 Cincinnati Reds starting lineup. Now the lineup for the Los Angeles Dodgers, managed by Tommy Lasorda. Leading off, playing second base, Davey Lopes. Batting second, playing shortstop, Bill Russell. Batting third, the first baseman, Steve Garvey. Batting cleanup in right field, Reggie Smith. Batting fifth in left field, the Lizard, Dusty Baker. Batting sixth at third base, the Penguin, Ron Cey. Batting seventh in center field, Rick Monday. Batting eighth, catching, Steve Yeager. And batting ninth, finishing up his warm-up tosses, Don Sutton. Your umpires for this game: at home plate, Satch Davidson. At first base is Jim Quick. At second base is the crew chief, Harry Wendelstadt. And at third base is Ed Vargo. You can see we are at beautiful Dodger Stadium for tonight's game. And we get a look over here at the Dodger bullpen and Dodger bench, as well as the Cincinnati bullpen and the Cincinnati bench. We've got our scorebook here, our playbook here. I'm not keeping score officially on the pad like I normally do, just for expediency purposes. I'll just kind of keep it in my head as we go along. I'm not going to do a whole game. I'm just going to do a couple, maybe an inning or so, just to see how it plays out and how the feel of it, because I don't want an hour-long video, obviously. So we pan over here. Got my dice. We're all set to go. Red, white, red, black, and blue, plus the decider die. So leading off will be Pete Rose. There he is. Pete Rose facing Don Sutton. And here is the opening pitch. It is 2-4-6. 2-4-6. 2-4-6. Ask, does the pitcher have control? Well, Don Sutton, if we scan up here, does have control. So we will go with that result in the pitcher column. And it says ground out to the pitcher. So Pete Rose taps back to the mound, easy out, Sutton to Garvey, one away, and that'll bring up the right fielder, Ken Griffey. Ken Griffey Sr., but back then he was just known as Ken Griffey. So here we go, Griffey aboard, at the plate, one down, Sutton delivers, and we get a 2-3-6 with the decider die as a yes. 2-3-6, ask, does Sutton have double control? No, he just has control. The decider die would give him a control and a half, but that's still not double control. So we go to the batter portion and it asks, is the pitcher hitting? Nope, pitcher's not hitting. We've got Ken Griffey hitting. So we scan over and it is a base on balls or a walk. So Ken Griffey is at first base with a one-out walk. And that'll bring up second baseman Joe Morgan. So we'll see what Morgan does here. Morgan steps in against Sutton. One out, one on. The pitch is a 1-3-5. And a 1-3-5 is the unusual results chart. And that goes by color, not only number but by color. And it goes by what the black die is. What the number one die is, what color. And it is a number one. So a number one means, black one, means we're going to the ballpark qualities. Well, if we scan up, Dodger Stadium is big right and big left. It doesn't matter who's batting. In this case, Morgan the lefty. But it's still going to play big on grass and play big. So we're going to roll the two dice plus the decider and see what a big ballpark does on this at bat for Morgan. It is a 1-3. 1-3. Ask if it's a small ballpark. We already know it's not. It's a big ballpark. Small ballpark says foul ball into the first place bleachers. Batter still at bat. Otherwise, first baseman makes catch of towering foul ball out. So the big ballpark, the big foul territory in Dodger Stadium, just cost Joe Morgan an out as he fouls out to Garvey. There are now two outs. If that was in Fenway or some smaller park, that would have just simply been a foul ball. But in this case, Dodger Stadium's foul territory comes into play. Two down, and that'll bring up the cleanup hitter, George Foster. So George Foster with Griffey still at first base, and here's Sutton's delivery. It is a 3-3-6. 3-3-6. Ask, is the pitcher Don Sutton an ace? He is not an ace. He is a semi-star. So that does not fly. So we go to the batter check on 3-3-6, and the batter check asks, is he sad sack, utility, or patient? George Foster is none of those. He's a semi-champion, semi-slugger, and a home run king. So it doesn't pass that litmus test. So we go to the 3-3-6 in the fielder column, and it's a single to center field. Single to center field. Runners advance two bases on any hit. So Griffey, with that speed, motors to third, puts runners at the corners with two outs. And that result was in red, so this at bat we will go over to player experience. Player experience for the next at bat, and both are icons. Johnny Bench is up next. He's an icon, and Don Sutton is an icon. He was pitching when Sandy Koufax was pitching, so you know he's an icon. So we go to the experience chart, roll our 2 dice plus the decider, and see if an icon pitcher or icon batter affects the play. It is a 3-5 with no decider die. 3-5 asks prospect batter. So, I'm sorry, icon batter. I misread that. 3-5 is icon batter. So Johnny Bench is an icon batter. It says he adjusts his swing at the last second, loops a single to the outfield. So the fact that Bench is an icon, he was able to fight off a tough pitch, loop it into the outfield. That scores Griffey from third, and that will cause Foster to stay at second. He's only going to get the 1 base. Puts runners at first and second, but the Reds strike first here in the top of the first with that iconic, you could say, single, since it was an icon batter that was able to pull that off. That'll bring up Dan Dreesen with 2 outs and 2 on. And here is the pitch by Dreesen. It is a 1-2-4 with the decider die. 1-2-4 is a check on control. Don Sutton has the control factor. There he is. He has the control factor. 1-2-4 control, ground out to the shortstop. So Dreesen grounds a ball to Russell, and he tosses over to Garvey. Inning is over, but the Reds do score a run. And after a half inning, it's Cincinnati 1, Dodgers coming to bat. All right, bottom of the first, Davey Lopes steps into the batter's box to lead things off against the right-hander Jack Billingham. So let's see what Billingham has in store for the Dodgers today. First pitch, 1-2-4 with the decider die. And that's exactly what the last roll was. It asked about a control pitcher. Jack Billingham is a semi-control pitcher. The decider die says he is a control pitcher in this at-bat. So Lopes hits a ground ball to Concepcion, flips over to Dreesen, and there is quickly 1 away. So the control pitcher is having their way here in the first inning. That'll bring up shortstop Bill Russell. And let's see what Billingham does with him. It is a 1-3-4, no decider die. 1-3-4 asks, is it a gold catcher? Gold catcher. Well, Johnny Bench is renowned for his defense. And as we can see, however, in this season, he is rated neutral. So he is not a gold catcher during this particular season. 77. He may have been back in the earlier 70s, but he was getting up in age, I guess. So 1-3-5 says he's, 1-3-4 says he's not a gold catcher. We go to the batting check and ask if the batter's a champion. Bill Russell is not a champion, so we lose that check and go over to outfield drama. Outfield drama. So let's see what kind of outfield drama we can get with 2 dice and the decider die for Bill Russell. Let's see what the roll is. It is a 1-2 with no decider die. It asks, is the right fielder iron? The right fielder is Ken Griffey. Ken Griffey is neutral on his fielding, so he is not iron. He is not iron. So it says, if he was iron, he would misjudge the ball and the batter would be safe on an error. Otherwise, it's a fly out. So Bill Russell flies meekly out to Ken Griffey in right field for out number 2. Quickly 2 up, 2 down, and that'll bring up Steve Garvey. Steve Garvey facing Billingham. Reds lead 1-0, bottom of the first. It is a 2-2-4. 2-2-4. Let's get back to our chart here. 2-2-4. Ask pitching at home. No, Billingham is on the road because we are in Dodger Stadium. So That check is going to be skipped because he's not pitching at home. So 224 asks, slugger, is Steve Garvey a slugger? Unfortunately, he is not a slugger. He is a semi-home run king, but he's not a slugger. So then it says single to right field with a blue result. So Garvey fights off a tough pitch, goes the opposite way, flicks a single to right field. Still 2 away, but Garvey's on first. And now we're going to the Baseball Right Now chart. Baseball Right Now chart. And we'll see what happens. I forgot to designate hot and cold batters, so we're going to call neutral on Reggie Smith. And Jack Billingham, if we look at the Right Now chart, says semi-cold if the last batter got a hit. So Billingham is semi-cold, and Reggie Smith, since he has not batted yet, will be neutral. So let's see what Reggie Smith can do against a semi-cold Jack Billingham. 2-4 with the decider die. 2-4 is a check on a hot batter. Well, Reggie Smith is not a hot batter, he's neutral. So he's not hot. So the hot batter reaches for an outside pitch and connects on a bloop single over short. Otherwise, it's a fly out to left. So Reggie Smith reached out for an outside pitch, flicked a can of corn out to George Foster in left, and that is the third out of the inning. After one complete, it is the Cincinnati Reds 1 and the Los Angeles Dodgers nothing. Okay, guys, that's one inning of play. I don't want to make this too long, but just out of curiosity, I'd be curious to know what you guys thought of having the pictorial baseball cards right there in front to kind of give you a lifelike feel. Also going with the stadium backdrop. I think it, in my personal opinion, I like it. I think it's kind of neat. It's a little extra cumbersome to work the baseball card itself with the cards from History Maker Baseball and looking at their stats and whatnot. I've almost thought about taking a little post-it note and writing the qualities down and kind of taping it, or not taping it, but sticking it to each of the batter cards, maybe at the bottom, and that way you could just use the batter cards. But I don't know. I'll have to wait and see. Like I said, for 77, if I don't have the 78 tops for a certain player, I'm bound to have the 77 tops because I have the whole set in 77. I realize for the card collectors out there, it may be sacrilege to take a Hall of Fame player type card like a Johnny Bench or someone like that and kind of just have him loose and running around with all these other players. These cards, when I collected them as a kid, were not really protected, so they've been written on, they've been bent, they've been stored in rubber bands, so it's not like they're high dollar. For me, they're much more valuable as far as sentimental goes. I do have some older cards that are valuable that are in protective sheets. Actually, not just protective sheets, but protective cases for the ones that are worth a little bit more, like a Ripken rookie or a Schmidt second card, older ones like that, Winfield rookie and things like that. But for the players here that most of those cards, 77, 78, that's probably their third or fourth year card, so it's not going to be all that valuable. I know Eddie Murray rookie is 78, but I can use his 79 card. I would not use his 78 card. I would just insert his 79 card, and that would suffice for that. So I've got enough 77, 78, and 79 tops to cover this 1977 season. Not only for the players that are Hall of Famers and might have valuable cards, but also for players who are traded. For instance, Bake McBride, I've got the 1977 card of him with the Cardinals and the 1978 card of him with the Phillies. And of course, he started the year with the Cardinals and then was traded to the Phillies. So I can use one card for St. Louis and one card for Philadelphia. Same with Tom Seaver. He started the 77 season with the Mets, was traded to the Reds. Got cards for both of those, so that's an easy insert as well. Anyway, I hope this was a little bit different for some people, and maybe you guys liked it. Maybe you thought it was dumb. I don't know. I kind of liked it, but that's just me. And I guess that's the beauty of solitaire baseball games like this, is you can kind of do what you want to do, and it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. But I didn't know if anybody had thought about doing this. I put up a post on Play.com message board on Delphi forums asking if anybody had tried this. And so I figured, well, if I'm going to put the post up, I might as well try it myself so I can at least have some experience with it. And like I say, I personally liked it. I think it added something to the game, gave it a little flavor, a little pizzazz, and it really puts those you can really get those player photos in your mind and brings back some memories. There's nothing wrong with the cards that come from History Maker Baseball, but to me, it's a whole lot nicer to look at, say, this Don Sutton as opposed to, if I can get it, as opposed to this Don Sutton. So, to me, in my opinion, I enjoyed the baseball cards there. When I was a kid, I used to have a card game. It was just a plain generic card game, a baseball card game that you made your lineups. It really was not stat driven. It was just by position, and it would have, like, if the first baseman was batting, he did such and such. Second baseman, so such and such. You made your lineups we made our lineups of our baseball cards, and we played the heck out of that. And that was before we had Status Pro and Stratomatic and some of those other games that came along. So this certainly brings back memories. Like I said, 77 was my favorite season to replay. I was 12 years old in 1977, and it was my first year of really getting into baseball itself. And one of the things I remember about the 77, not the season, but the 77 springtime of 77, when the Topps 1977 set came out, my friends and I were all crazed looking through those wax packs trying to get a Mark Fidrich card, because he was the hot item at that time. He was a 76 All-Star, and he was an icon and a phenom. And I still remember one of my friends managed to pull a Fidrich out of the pack, and he jumped up on the bench in the mall and said, "I got the bird." And it was pretty funny thinking about it now. I don't know what the Beckett or whatever those ratings for baseball cards, the rating of the values, but I imagine you could probably get a Mark Fidrich 1977 Topps rookie for about 10 cents. I don't know if that's accurate, but it couldn't be that much because of the fact that he really had like 1 year and flamed out. Anyway, that's it. I don't want to go on too much longer and yak, but I might go ahead and try to finish playing out this game and see how it goes a little further for another couple innings. But I hope everybody got a chance to see this and maybe thought about it. If you have old baseball cards yourself, give it a try. Doesn't hurt, and adds a little color and flair to the ball game. And I thought it was kind of neat myself, but that's just me. Anyway, I hope everybody has a great day, and I'll check back in another time.